Welcome to the Michael Krug podcast show. Today I'm going to share my story. My name is Michael Krug. I'm a board certified health coach, and let's get into it. I've shared my story several times across different platforms. If you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok even, LinkedIn, as well as even medium.com. I have shared this story many times. It's a story that continues to unfold, and it's one that I've even had clients continue to ask me to share because there is power in it. I feel like as human beings, there's a lot of power in sharing story, in things that we've gone through, experiences that we've had. So that's what I'm going to do for you today. I just want to share my story and then 3 main takeaways from my story that I hope you can implement into your life if your goal is to transform your health and well-being. So, I was born March 24th, 1992. So that puts me at 31 years old, feeling it, all 31 years. And I've been through quite a bit, especially on the health side in my life. And to start, so I've always been someone who's been active. I've enjoyed playing sports, football, hockey, baseball growing up. That was really what I looked forward to doing every single day. By the time I was in second grade, actually, my parents got divorced. And we know that divorce is tough on kids. It's tough on, families, relationships. Everything about divorce is just not ideal for the most part. We have really high divorce rates in our country. Across the globe. And, the fact that my parents got divorced isn't unique. So I know a lot of people will probably hear this and be able to empathize with it. So my parents got divorced. My dad is a chef and my mom was a school teacher. They're actually both retired now. But it was really interesting because my dad would always cook and make relatively healthy meals for us day in and day out. That was, part of his role in our family. However, my mom, and she's cool with me sharing this, I've talked to her about it. She actually has dealt with eating disorders her entire life. One time I asked her, I said, Mom, when did you develop these eating disorders? And she said, when does human memory start? 3 years old? Probably then. So as long as she can remember. In fact, I have a hypothesis on it. My grandma, her mammary ducts were blocked, and my mom didn't actually get any food or sustenance from my grandma for the first 17 days of her life. So I think there maybe is something in that. My mom literally was starving for her first 17 days in this plane of existence. And I think that's carried over into her life. And then we know through, our lineage, through ancestral trauma, I think I've taken on a lot of that. And I've done a lot of healing around it as well. So I thank you for letting me share that. So anyway, my parents divorced between 2nd and 3rd grade. So I was, 8 or 9 years old. I think I was 8. And at the same time, I actually went from one school to another school. So I'm from Inver Grove Heights, Minnesota. They rezoned the school district that same year. So I went from one elementary school to another and basically having lots of friends, people who I knew to a completely new environment with no friends or anything. And that, plus my family being torn apart at the same time, it's a lot for an 8-year-old to have to deal with. Okay, and my way of coping, the only thing that made me feel whole, feel safe, and secure in those moments was through binge eating. I can remember the day my dad brought my sister and I fishing, and he doesn't even like fishing, so I was like, what's going on here? He brought us down to the local Simley Pond. We were fishing, and he said, hey, I'm going to be moving out, and your mom and I are splitting up. And I didn't really get it at the time. What I did know is that it didn't feel good. I felt hollow on the inside. So when we got home that day, I actually went up to the fridge. I've told this story a lot, but I went up to the fridge. I grabbed a pack of those Kraft American cheese singles. It's mostly plastic. I don't think it's actually food. We'll talk about that in later episodes. And I went down, I laid underneath the coffee table, and I ate all 24 pieces of that cheese. And it felt really good, just overeating to the point of being stuffed. I think I went up and I got deli ham or whatever it was after, and just ate and ate and ate, because it was alleviating my pain. And again, when we look at emotional eating, we look at binge eating disorder, and we look at the way that, especially in the United States, people approach food. Oftentimes it is a coping mechanism, okay? So I developed that at an early age, again at 8 years old, and it didn't stop for a long, long time. So those habits, those behaviors continued. Not to mention, my mom dealing with her own kind of binge eating bulimia, those types of things. I think she kind of silently confided in what I was doing and was able to kind of mask her own behaviors in my behaviors. So she was also at the same time experiencing her own stuff, and it was just kind of not a good sequence going on there. Anyway, so fast forward, again, still loving playing sports, binge eating every day. I was a kid at lunch and, third, fourth, fifth, even sixth, seventh, eighth, and through high school, who would like eat my lunch plus like someone else's and maybe another, right? I would just eat all the food because I legitimately couldn't stop. Like when we talk about food addiction, I don't think a lot of people who haven't experienced it don't understand that it's the same as like alcoholism. Like legitimately, when I would start eating, I could not stop until everything in my sight was gone, and or I was full to the point where I thought I would vomit if I ate anymore. And that's food addiction, right? Some people say they're food addicts and they're not like really food addicts. That's what food addiction looks like. Is like once I started, I could not stop. Okay, so through doing that for years, I got to the point where I was in 8th grade. We went into the doctor for annual checkup. I'll never forget. I was 201 pounds as a 13-year-old. Okay. And we got my blood pressure taken. I think it was like 145/85, so pretty high. And, I'll talk about, the medical system in future episodes. Not saying it's good, bad, right, or wrong, but the strategy that was presented to us was to go on an ACE inhibitor called lisinopril, a pharmaceutical drug, to help lower my blood pressure. Okay, so that's what we did. I started getting on that. It was a 5 milligram dose daily. Nothing to address my habits or the eating. Pretty sure I probably went home from the doctor and had like a bunch of, for me, the stuff that always got me, I've never been into sweets. I've never been like, I could see cupcakes or candy and just leave it. Like I really don't care. But for me, it was like processed cheese, processed meat, white bread, just these massive sandwiches, like quad decker, five pieces of bread, just huge with mayo and stuff on it. So that was probably what I did when I got home. And again, it continued. So mind you, this whole time I'm playing sports, I'm pretty active. So, I'm a big kid, but I'm also like an athlete and athletic, right? And then getting towards 11th grade. So I got a job when I would turn 16 at Cub Foods, pushing carts into the grocery store. And during the football season, actually after the football season, my junior year of high school, so I was 16 years old, I noticed that my left knee started clicking with every step that I took. Okay, and I was like, well, that's kind of weird, growing pains, something like that. Mind you, I should also mention that during the football season from 8th grade through 11th grade, after every football practice, I'd have this massive ache in my left side, like down by my kidneys. So we thought that it might be a kidney thing. I went in and they did like they stuck the tube up my thing, and it just, I don't know, it was very invasive. They found that my kidney was like slightly enlarged, but there was nothing wrong with it. So we just, dealt with the pain, and, my mom was just like, well, put a heating pad on it and it'll go away. And it didn't really go away. It just made for like a warm pain. But anyway, so after the junior year football season, I'm pushing carts into Cub Foods and my knee clicks with every step. It never really hurt, but I was just like, that's kind of weird. And I kept going and then it started to get painful. And then we go fast forward to like December and the pain is almost unbearable. And I remember it was during winter break, I believe, and I came home from work, got out of my red 2003 Dodge Neon, and as I'm stepping out of the car with my left leg, my left knee is the one that's had the trauma. I literally it buckled and I collapsed on the garage floor and I started screaming because it hurt so bad. My mom was home. She came out, helped me get inside. I begged her. I said, Mom, we got to go to the doctor. Something is wrong. And a lot of my life, I believed that there was something wrong with me that had to be fixed. Okay, and we're going to talk about the perspective shift later. But I was like, Mom, something's wrong with me. We have to go in and get it checked out. Next day we went to the doctor. I got an x-ray. And so we're sitting in the lobby waiting for the assistant or the doctor or nurse or whatever to come out. And I'm actually happy. I'm ecstatic. I'm like, they're going to find something wrong and I'm going to have surgery and they're going to fix it and it's going to be great, right? So they come out and they say, oh, we have your x-rays. There's nothing structurally wrong. We think it might just be a strain. And I'm sitting there like, what the are you talking about? Like a strain? Are you kidding me? You have no idea what I'm going through. My knee is clicking with every step. How is that a strain? Right? In my 16 years of wisdom, I gathered that. So anyway, that's what they said. They said, if take the week off of work, ice it, stay off of it, and you should be good to go. I was like, okay, whatever, we'll try it. Did that. I probably still was skating outside, playing hockey in that time, didn't really rest it, but things just kept getting worse. The clicking continued, the pain continued to get worse, and then finally, it was in mid-January, I said, Mom, like, we have to figure something out. Like, there's definitely something wrong with my knee. 100%, there's something wrong that needs to be fixed. And in my head, I wanted to have surgery, which maybe sounds kind of like fucked up, but that was what I intuitively thought was going to fix me. Not to mention psychologically, like that would give me more attention, like people would actually see me like on crutches and like ask me what's going on. Like a big part of this too is that, back to basically my whole upbringing, is that because I didn't feel whole in myself, I would try and externally validate myself through being friends with literally everyone. You can ask anyone that I went to high school with, like, I was probably one of the most friendliest people. I was kind of a dick at the same time, but like I tried to be so friendly and be friends with everyone because truly I genuinely didn't like myself on the inside. And I thought by having that external validation and friendships, it would make me feel better. Anyway, so we go in, I have this MRI and it comes back and the doctor comes in. He's like, he's like, sit down for this. I was like, hey, this is great. Like something intense is going on. I'm going to finally have this surgery to fix my knee. And we go over and he's like, so you have something called osteochondritis dissecans, which very simply means that the bone marrow in my femur didn't fully go down the femur. So if like this is my femur, if you're watching on YouTube, the lateral, so outside condyle, wasn't getting bone marrow. So it was actually jagged and it didn't fully develop when I was a kid. So through years of playing sports, having a jagged femur, my meniscus was fully torn, my MCL and ACL were both partially torn, and I had a ton of torn cartilage in my knee. And he's like, this is a pretty intense case. We don't see stuff like this with kids your age. Usually we don't see stuff like this with anyone under the age of like 65. I was like, shit. Well, something's wrong. We got to fix me, right? So the doctor said, yeah, the typical prognosis for this is we're going to have 2 surgeries. The first one is going to be an arthroscopic surgery. So we're going to go in with like a little, like a camera and see what's going on, examine the extent of the damage that's in your knee, clear out any of the cartilage that's torn and broken away, and then you'll be scheduled, you'll be put on a list to have a donor, and then you'll be scheduled to have a bone graft transplant surgery. And in that surgery, what we're going to do is that femur, we're going to take a drill and drill into the femur, into the condyle, with going up, X inches to hopefully allow bone marrow to release. And then we're going to put a new bone graft from a donor in the bottom of the femur. And then the idea is that the bone marrow will bind to that and then it'll, make the bottom of your femur smooth. And I said, great, sounds kind of intense, but I've been looking for an issue with myself for so long. I found the issue and you guys are going to fix me. That was what I was thinking in my head. And so we keep chatting and, he talks about, it's 6 weeks. So I don't know if I mentioned it or if he just brought it up, but I was thinking in my head, like, oh, great. Like I'll still be good to go for football season, can still play hockey. And he said, well, with the nature of this injury, you're actually not going to be able to play any contact sports for the rest of your life. And as a kid who was already dealing with, a deep amount of displeasure for myself, someone who the only thing I looked forward to in life was going out and playing sports with my friends and being active and, whether it was football, hockey, baseball, even basketball. I'm not good at that. I like to shoot hoops, but just that was the one thing that I actually truly enjoyed in life. And to have that taken away sent me into a severe depression. I looked so hard for something to be wrong. And when I finally found it, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I just reflect on that because being a 16-year-old kid, having that diagnosis and having that being taken away from me, like, fuck, man, that was hard. Like, I immediately turned to marijuana and alcohol to cope with that. Like, I still played golf And actually, okay, so, going forward from the surgery, that was in late February, and I was supposed to be on crutches for 6 weeks. Well, my thought was golf is all I have left. So I did like not even 2 weeks of the physical therapy and of the crutches. And then I was like, fuck it, like I feel fine. Just being a stubborn high school kid. So I still played golf that season. It was actually my best year of high school golf. But it was really, really depressing for me to have the things that I love, the things that really, again, truly brought me joy, taken from my life and told that I won't ever be able to do them again, which I can now. We'll get there. So that's where I was at, senior year of high school. Yeah, like again, I continued to just focus on being as social as possible, making friends. I was homecoming king. I was at every party, just getting like blackout drunk, drinking, water bottles worth of Ron Diaz rum and Phillips vodka, and just, I don't have any regrets about it, but I definitely didn't take into account the big picture. I feel like as kids especially, it can be tough to think about the big picture and our actions in the moment. Even for 20 and 30-year-olds, I think it's hard to do that at times as well. And I was just on this spiral. So by the time I finished high school, I think I was about 320 pounds. And then I decided to go to St. Cloud State University, which if you're in Minnesota, you know that the reputation at St. Cloud, it's like a party place first, a school second. And that was what I did. That was my life. Like I was drinking 5 nights a week, blackout probably 3 nights a week. I had the unlimited cafeteria and we just go binge eat. And, I'm so blessed that I had such great friends who would just put up with some of my antics and my bullshit. And, after that first diagnosis with my knee in junior year of high school was like, I kind of lost hope a little bit because of the loss of sports. And I kind of just turned into a dick for a couple of years. And again, reflecting on that, I'm not proud of a lot of the things that I said and the way that I operated. And, we all go through hard points in life and we all deal with it in different ways. And I did what I did. So anyway, going into, I want to mention, so I was a freshman in college and, one of my good friends, my next door neighbor in the dorms was, just asking me about health. Cause he's like, man, like, don't you want to like be healthy? Cause I always talk about, I was like, dude, I just want to like, honestly, I want to hook up with a chick at some point in my life. I want to lose that V card. Not to mention just like, be like a genuine, good, healthy, happy human being. And he's like, man, like, what if you started like going to the gym and stuff? He offered to go with me and help me with nutrition and stuff. And then in my brain, wanting to find a quick fix as much of our society does today, I was like, well, what if I just stop eating? And he was like, I don't know about that, man. Like his brother was like a trainer and stuff in LA, and I actually talked to him on the phone, and he's like, food is super important. And I was just like, dude, no, man, I'm just gonna stop eating. So when I was a freshman in college, I actually fasted. I did not eat any food for 17 days. I did lose like 40 pounds in that time, but I put that all back on plus more when I started eating again. I'll have to make a separate episode where I talk just about that, because like I learned so much about myself in doing that, being a food addict and going, cold turkey, so to say. But anyway, so fast forward again, still partying a ton. And then into my sophomore year of college, actually, this is winter break over my sophomore year of college. This is 2012. And I was skating outside in the winter, and I fell on my knee that I had the bone graft put in. And obviously, because I didn't take care of it, it didn't heal in properly. So the bone graft cracked out of my knee. So go down on the ice and cracks out, and I could feel it. And like, I'm telling you, the fucking pain of that moment is etched into my brain. Like it is, it makes my stomach hurt just thinking about it. Like, oof, that's brutal. I hope no one ever has to experience that. Hopefully I took that hit for all of humankind. But anyway, bone graft cracks out of my knee. The next day, going for emergency surgery, another arthroscopic surgery. They pull out the bone graft. Some of the cartilage is torn again, but it looks, similar shape as to when it was when I was 16. Get put on a donor list, and then actually the day after my 20th birthday, so March 25th, 2012, I went in for my second major knee graft transplant surgery, wherein they drilled into my femur again to let bone marrow come out, put a new bone graft in with the hopes that it would heal. And that, at this point, I'm just hoping I can walk again. Okay. So I actually went through with the PT and the crutches this time. I kind of like half dropped out of school. I was commuting actually 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursday classes, and did my best with the Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, and still finished up the semester. But I will never forget, this is the day when everything in my life completely flipped, like complete 180. So May 16th, Wednesday, 2012, I went into the doctor's office on the east side of St. Paul, Health Partner Specialty Clinic. And I went in, and it's my follow-up, like post-operation appointment where I'm supposed to come off my crutches. So I go in, I step on the scale, and I'm 375 pounds. We go back to the room. My blood pressure is 160 over 100 with a 10 milligram dose of lisinopril, that same ACE inhibitor, but a double dose, like a large dose, as a 20-year-old kid. And I had this realization in that moment that if I did not change the way I was living my life, I was going to die. It was pretty black and white. It was keep doing what I'm doing, dead before 30, or fucking change everything, okay? And a quick caveat to that, if you look at like obesity and long-term sustainable weight loss literature, that moment of having like a flip in the script, I call it the day I murdered myself, meaning like my old self. That's actually something that shows up in literature quite often, is having this moment where it's like, we flipped the script, okay? So that was what I did. And I didn't really know what I was doing to start. I knew the basics, calories in, calories out was gonna help me lose weight. I knew that running was actually going to be very detrimental to me, especially with the nature of having a bone graft that was healing still. Like running in high impact was not going to work. So I got a bike and I started biking everywhere. I knew that, I had to make a ton of changes. So that summer, I cut out fast food completely. So like I used to be heavily addicted to fast food, wherein like I would go to work at Bath and Body Works. I know it's funny. And then I would stop at Burger King on the way home off of Division, take it right into Burger King. I would go in, I would get the 2 for $5 chicken sandwiches, and then I would leave that and I would go across the street over to Arby's and I would get 2 for $5 beef and cheddar there. And then I would eat all 4 of those sandwiches on my way to Taco Bell. Taco Bell, you pull into the drive-thru, they had a garbage. I would get rid of all the evidence and I would order like a $5 box plus like a quesadilla. And then I'd eat as much of that on the way home as I could, get home, act like all I got was the box, finish eating that and be like, oh man, I'm still hungry, and then make a pizza. Like, think about that, dude. That's like, I'm not gonna say it's psychopathic behavior, but that's a true addict, is hiding those behaviors. So I knew that I needed to stop. I knew that 100% for me to change, I needed to stop with fast food. So that's what I did. I've mentioned it in like shorter reels and stuff on social media, but one thing I did was after I left work, I just put a chew in. That stopped me from getting food because I didn't want to waste the chew, which is really interesting. I'm not recommending to chew tobacco if you want to lose weight. It was something that I did. I actually eventually shifted to gum. But anyway, that was what I started with. I also would bike. So I started biking just, every weekend, or even with weekdays, because I actually dropped out of school for a semester. I would just go wake up and just go bike like 20, 30 miles like every day. And it helped a ton. Another thing that helped a ton too was I started seeing a chiropractor. I'll never forget this too. So I went in and I got my nervous system checked, and he checked the tension in my spine and in my occiput to C1. So like arguably the most important place of connection for your entire nervous system. I had 1200% tension. He's like, how do you not have headaches chronically? I was like, well, I take blood pressure medication. He's like, that's probably why. He let me know, if my goal is to lose weight, got to be in a calorie deficit, focus on eating good, high frequency, as I call it, food. And that kind of catalyzed my journey as well. And from that moment in May up until December of that year, I went from 375 down to about 310, 320. Okay. I also, at that time, I transferred to Winona State University. I realized that the environment in St. Cloud wasn't serving me well. So I went to Winona, still a party school, but not quite as big of a party school as St. Cloud. And I lived on my best friend's couch. God bless you, Elliot, for letting me stay with you. And for a semester, and then I was just continuing to do the same stuff though. So I would bike in Winona. I got a job at Walmart, and I would just, bike around. I was eating, I should mention too, like when I stopped eating the fast food, I changed my diet a bit. Like I would eat some frozen veggies and frozen chicken, like in the bag, but I also still had like lots of pizzas and pizza rolls and that kind of shit. But I started making changes just gradually, right? So for the whole year from 2012 to the end of from January 2012 to January 2013, I was actually plateaued and right around 310. And I actually wound up, I think my heaviest at that point was 325. My lowest was 300. So I had like a 25-pound working range, which maybe sounds extreme, but that's just where I was at. Still drinking and partying and all of that. But then in January 2013, I started resistance training. So I would go to the gym, but I would do like, some stretches, some like very light abs, and then just go on the elliptical. And that was just like my gym routine, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And then I had a friend who was actually, coaching powerlifting. We were in a class together where we had to teach people how to do different types of activities. So like I ran like a golf putting clinic, and his was to teach how to powerlift. And I was like, dude, this is so interesting. And he actually helped me like really work on technique and form with powerlifting. And then I started getting into powerlifting and Olympic lifting. And it was really, really fun. I enjoyed it a lot. From there, I actually went through a lot of different splits and training styles, like, the traditional like bodybuilding split, chest and tris on Monday, back and bis on Tuesday, legs on Wednesday, shoulders and abs on Thursdays, fat arm Friday, right? I went through that for quite a while. I did a lot of powerlifting. I did a lot of Olympic lifting. And that was kind of like the whole year of 2013 was where I just experimented with so many different types of exercise. As well as this whole time, I also experimented with a lot of different styles of nutrition. I went through a phase where I was vegan for a while. I was vegetarian for about 9 months, vegan for like 4 months of that. That didn't serve me in the best way. I did, high carb, low fat. I did keto, all sorts of different stuff. Like I have experimented with so many styles of eating, and I still to this day, like I thoroughly get enjoyment out of experimenting with different types of nutrition and eating. And that was what really set off for me, kind of, it opened up a whole new world to experiencing what life had to offer and how you could live and optimize health. So I should mention that from January 2013 through June 2013, I went from about 310 down to about 260. And then in that following semester, I went from about 260 to 245. And then that was 2013. And then 2014, that whole year, I went from about 245 down to like the 235. And then by the time I finished undergrad in spring of 2015, I was right around like 230. So the resistance training was a huge catalyst. I think also continuing to experiment and learn what types of nutrition serve me best. As well as just an attitude that no matter what, as long as I keep going, I can't fail, right? And we'll get to my big takeaways in a bit. So in 2015, in May or June of 2015, I went, went to China, Southeast Asia, and Japan, visited some friends, did some solo traveling, loved it. Got into grad school at Winona State, decided I would go back there. And when I returned home, I posted pictures of I can't remember if I posted the pictures or someone else did, but pictures were posted of me of like this huge health transformation I had gone through. So when I got back in fall of 2015 and then in the spring of 2016 when I started grad school, people actually started reaching out to me on Facebook, and they were like, man, you look great. Like, dozens of people reached out just saying like, you look great, like good work, super proud of you. I appreciated that. And then I had probably 10 people who were like, hey, is there any, can you help? Like, I'm in a similar boat. Like, I would love to change my health and my lifestyle. I'm looking to lose weight. Clearly, you know what you're doing. Can you help me? So, mind you, I was in grad school and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. For me, it was just like, well, college for a couple more years. That should be fun, So that was kind of my perspective. But I started actually doing health coaching in spring of 2016 without knowing what the fuck it even was. Like, I was just like, all right, like we can do calls every week, and I've got some information I can share with you, and we'll check in and see how you're doing. It's fun looking back because I did some things okay from a health coaching perspective, and now being board certified, my specialty and what I do and what I think differentiates me from a lot of other health and fitness coaches is that being board certified, I take a psychological approach to behavior change and psychology first, right? That's my specialty. That's what I and I would say world-class, and is helping people achieve like long-term sustainable behavior change, right? So a lot of it, what I was doing was just giving advice and sharing information, which is great, but it typically isn't enough to move the needle. And then I absolutely loved doing the health coaching that I was doing. So I was like, all right, well, I think I want to actually pursue this. So I finished up in Winona. In 2017, I had worked with, I think, 4 or 5 clients while I was down there. I moved back to the Twin Cities. My sister was starting her chiropractic business. I started working with her to help her get it up and running and going. And I was coaching on the side, kind of as like a side hustle from 2017 through 2022, really. I officially started my business and made my business accounts in LLC in 2020, but I didn't go full-time with coaching until 2022. Now I've been doing health coaching full-time for 2 years. It's my main gig. I have some other things that I do on the side that are probably more passion project driven, but this is my main form of income and what I do and how I work. And I love it. I think I wholeheartly believe that all the things that I've gone through, what I've experienced, my entire upbringing, even to this point, and all the things that I have had to experience in my life, I believe that I'm uniquely situated to help people specifically who want to lose, more, like an extreme amount of weight, as well as just helping people live healthy in general. I've learned so much along the way. Again, being board certified, I've had to take courses in lifestyle medicine and understanding, what is truly genuinely healthy, as well as understanding how to help people change. And I'm just so grateful for the way that things have unfolded. Like, honestly, I'm blessed to be able to wake up every day and to work with amazing clients and to be able to, do what I love and what I'm passionate about and talk about it day in and day out. And that's part of the reason I'm starting this podcast, is because a lot of the information that I share with clients, I feel like would just benefit the general public. So I'm doing my best to be able to educate and share a lot of wisdom that can help you no matter where you're at. So that's what I have for my story. Again, I'm continuing to experiment day in and day out and optimize health for myself as well as my clients. And I wanted to talk about like the three big things, the 3 big takeaways from my journey that I hope you can take into your journey as well, no matter where you're at. So number 1 is responsibility. Now, I don't blame myself for my upbringing, for the way that, my parents responded or reacted to certain things that happened. I don't blame myself for the tools that I had available to cope, but I do take responsibility for it, okay? There's a difference between, blaming and, finding some sort of external way to say that, these bad things happened, this is why it was, versus just taking responsibility and not necessarily internalizing it, but being like, you know what? I recognize all the actions that I've taken in my life have led me to where I'm at right now, okay? And no matter where you're at, you always have the capacity to change, but it's very, very difficult to make a change unless you take full responsibility for everything you've done to this point and what's brought you to where you're at. So the number 1 thing, if you're looking to up-level your health, if you're looking to lose weight, change your lifestyle, build muscle mass, whatever it may be, just whatever it may be, you must take responsibility for the actions you've taken to this point and for your current starting point. Because if you don't take responsibility when you start on your journey, you're going to be seeking external reasons why you're not going to make progress, and you're not going to make progress. That's a big learning that took me a while to understand. Number 2 is the basics of health are the basics because they work, okay? Dude, there's so much shit out there. Like, I'm just going to say it how it is. Like, If you go on like Instagram and just search like health and wellness, you're gonna find all these products, these MLM products, and like all these hacks, and like do this and that, and dude, even like carnivore, like not necessarily vegan, but like all this shit that honestly, like, yeah, it can work, but at the end of the day, 1, if you're gonna lose weight, you gotta be in a calorie deficit. That is time and time again true. Fight me on it. Number two is if you want to be just healthy in general, you got to move your body. You don't have to lift weights. I think that, we'll talk about it in a future episode, but like lifting weights is way more efficient than a lot of other forms of exercise for overall health. But you got to move your body pretty much every single day. You got to drink water. You got to sleep. You have to have like good social connection, whether it's friendships, your relationship, family, whatever it may be. And you have to have healthy forms of stress management. Like those are the basics. And without the basics, none of the, like whatever powder or I don't even know, dude. There's some weird stuff out there right now, right? Like you can't, don't get me wrong, cold exposure, cold showers and stuff is beneficial, and so is sauna, but you can't like cold shower and sauna yourself into health. Like it doesn't work that way, right? We got to focus on the basic pillars. For me, it's mindset, meals, and movement. Okay, so nutrition, fitness, and stress management techniques in the way that you perceive the world. Those are the things. It's the basics, right? And again, I'll make more episodes where we go into those basics. The number 3, and I think this is probably the most important point, is you have the capacity to change no matter where you're at. Does not matter your starting point. My story is obviously intense, but there's people who are in way, way worse situations than I've ever been in. And so long as you have belief in yourself and you continue to put in the effort and you never quit, you will see the results. It's going to take time. There is no shortcut, easy way, no easy button like the Staples commercials or whatever. There is no easy way to make these things long-term. I mean, let me rephrase. There is no shortcuts or way to fast track progress. I mean, there are things that you can do that will help collapse the time frame, which we'll talk about. But at the end of the day, if you don't have belief in yourself, then whatever success you see isn't going to be sustained. You must believe that you are that healthy individual on the inside. You must believe that no matter how tall the mountain is that you're trying to climb, that you will get to the top so long as you don't quit. That's the most important thing that I can leave with you, is that you got to have the belief, take responsibility, and start with the basics. So that's my story. Again, like I said, I've shared this a couple times. I wanted to share it again just because I've had some people ask. And that's what I got. So this is, I guess, technically the first episode of the Michael Krug podcast show. We're going to call it that. I appreciate if you've listened this long. Please do me a favor if you enjoyed this. Go ahead and subscribe, give it a like or a review if you're on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, wherever it's at. Helps get the show out there. And I'm going to keep this going because I think I've got a lot of information that I can share that can help a lot of people. And my hope is to be able to transform the health of society. That's really my long-term vision and mission. So that's what I got. Enjoy your day and keep inspiring.